What's up, everybody, and how are we doing today? So welcome to the LCS 6 Top 16 Handtrap slash Tech Breakdown. What we're going to do here today is talk about how many handtraps remained and which ones they were, why they were. As you can see on the screen right now, we are showing some of the, well, all of the top 16 decks, so you guys can just kind of see what they are. Pause the video if you want to net deck them at all. Feel free to do that, I guess. Can't stop you. So we'll also cover some tech choices they had, and then cards that they sided, and kind of cover it all that way. So if you want to see another good video breaking down the hand traps and things like that of the top 16, check out the video in the link in the description down below for Hakuna My Data. He also has some really good in-depth Cyber Dragon content where he uses a coding program and runs like 100,000 test hands and really breaks down Cyber Dragons analytically, and they are very good videos, and I do highly recommend his channel. Hopefully we can actually work on something together in the future, like actually working on it together, not just me having him run a deck through his program. So I will be in touch with him, as I already am all the time anyway. So without further ado though, let's get into this video. So you saw the 16 decks now. Only one of them did not play any hand traps, and that was Shu Ping and his Infernobles. He played 0. He ended up siding 9 of them. He did main deck exchange and drag down to the grave, and for the average player, I'd say this probably wouldn't work because the deck is going to be inherently a little bit weaker going second, since you can't really stop your opponent from doing anything. But Shu Ping is probably one of the better TCG players out there, and his skill alone, he can help his deck, I guess is the better way to put it, because the deck's not carrying him. He is just a really, really smart, good player, and he can pilot a deck in less than ideal situations, because I guarantee he did not win all of his die rolls to get to the top 16. He just knows what to do and how to play and pilot his decks, and that's why he ended up making the top 16. So nobody played 4 hand traps. There was one person playing 5, 2 played 6, one main decked 8 hand traps. Remember, this is just main deck, guys, not side deck yet. We'll get to that in a little bit. 6 main decked 9, which was the most popular option. 1 main decking 10, and 4 main decking 12. Nobody in the top 16 main decked more than that. But so we're gonna go ahead, and the average, if you add up all the hand traps in the top 16 divided out by the 16, it was like 8.56, I believe. So we're gonna call the average 9. So moving forward with this format, at least you can kind of expect the majority of decks to be maining 9 hand traps. Just kind of assume that. It doesn't mean everyone will, and you shouldn't necessarily fear it, but just kind of assume everyone's playing 9 hand traps. And what does that mean? That means that, well, once out of 3 games they'll open multiples at like 30%, so just under. So you can expect if you go to game 3 them to open multiple hand traps once, and they're going to open at least one hand trap 70% of the time, so you can kind of expect to see them have a hand trap more often than they will not. So this is going to bring us into what hand traps remained. Now, there was actually a tie as the most main decked hand trap in this top cut, and that was between Gamma and Nibiru. Both were main decked at a count of 12 out of the top 16 decks, so kind of just showing that they are very, very strong. Obviously, a Negate and Destroy from Gamma is really good, and Nibiru, you know, a lot of decks are spamming out monsters right now, so inherently it is pretty good, especially when you pair it with like Gamma and Impermanence, which was the 3rd most main decked hand trap at 10, because then you can like actually let them extend into a negate if you open both, and then you Nibiru and they try to negate it, and then you Gamma or Imperm their negate, and you can still Nibiru them, and then you they overcommitted at that point, and they're going to be in a much worse situation because they already got to that point of their combo. Not saying decks cannot play through a Nibiru, because we obviously saw, I forgot which pilot it was with Dragon Link actually OTK'd through Nibiru. So obviously, depending on their hand, they are still going to be able to continue playing, but these hand traps are probably the most likely to hinder them the most. And sometimes that's all you need, is not to outright stop your opponent's turn, but to make it so their end board is easy for you to overcome on your turn. The number 4 hand trap was actually Droll and Lockbird, 5 decks main decking it. So Drone Lockbird, it's pretty good against Dragon Link guys. Dinos, more often than not, it's going to be really good, but depending on their hand, they will be able to play through it sometimes. Infernobles, it's decent, and depending on their hand, it can stop them outright, but a lot of their hands, they will still be able to do at least some of their combo, but you will hinder them a little bit, and sometimes that's all you need. As far as other top 16 deck lists, Invoke Dogmatica does get hit by Droll pretty good. I mean, obviously, if they open everything, then they open everything, but you can't do too much. But you're going to stop the Dogmatica part, at least if you drill them after Alistair or Meltdown. And then Guru Control also gets hit by Droll pretty hard, so it was a good meta call, and I actually have been debating on maining it or not, and it looks like a lot of people were. So Ash Blossom came in at number 5 with 4 people main decking it, and then No Material actually saw main deck action from 1. Valor and Ogre also saw play from a couple guys. So that's it for the main decked hand traps. Nibiru, Gamma, Imperm, then Droll and Ash being the top 5. Other techs or like power cards that were main decked, not too many power cards are main decked, and that's because Dragon Link and Infernables look at your hand and take a card out of it with Smoke Grenade, so it's kind of hard to play these cards because unless you open multiples or draw it for turn, or like you need to hold on to it through their hand rips, which sometimes they do multiple actually. So that's why I think going second, power cards saw less play than the hand traps were. Dark Ruler No More was only main decked once. Pankratops was in 2 of the dinosaur decks. Mystic Mine also 2 of the dinosaur decks. Forbidden Droplet did not see any main deck play. Tactics Talents saw in 2, including the Invoke Dogmatica list that 1. Dragoon only saw play in 2 of the top 16 deck lists, and initially it's like, oh my goodness, Dragoon only saw play in 2. Like, why? Well, I mean, Infernables don't really play it, so that's 3. And Dragon Link also doesn't need it. Their board is already crazy. They rip 2 and end with like 3+ interactions on your turn anyway. So why run the extra bricks just to put up that extra one and actually leave yourself more vulnerable to like a super poly if they out the Buster Lock or something like that. So right there's already 9 of the top 16 that it just doesn't really make sense for them to play. Dinosaurs, I've seen lists that do and don't, so again, not too surprising that Dino's opting not to play it. But so yeah, that's pretty much the majority of the top cut and played decks that don't necessarily run Dragoon, and that's why Dragoon did not necessarily see success, but it was in the Eldritch and the Guru decks. Gizmek Uka saw some spicy main deck action in one list. I actually thought that was really cool, and I was excited to see it because I like when people go outside the normal and do things like that. But moving on to the side deck, so what were some side deck cards that everybody chose? If you watched our video on side decking, we actually covered a lot of these popular choices. Red Reboot being the one that we didn't necessarily cover, but it was in the video and we took it out of the video if you actually watched it and you saw us, because it's kind of obvious when you put in Red Reboot. Like, we could have left it in there and just said, oh, use it when your opponent has a lot of traps, because I mean that's when you use it. I guess you could say the same about Harpy's Feather Duster. You use it against back row decks. It's kind of obvious. So in that argument, I guess we should have just talked about Reboot a little bit, but we did not, because it's pretty self-explanatory. Harpy's Feather Duster was the most side-decked card at 15 out of the 16 decks side-decking it. So it's definitely a combo format and not a whole lot of control decks. So seeing this in the side deck is not too surprising. Red Reboot came in at number 2 with 10. You're going to hear a lot of removal cards here in the side deck because, again, it's a combo format, so most of your removal cards get sided in case you play those matchups. There was a 3-way tie at 3rd with 9 decks playing them. Pankratops played in 9, which I strongly stand by. If you're going second deck, main deck Pankratops. It's just really, really good overall against basically every matchup. I actually just had a small prize tournament. If you saw, we played Guru Dogmatica twice. We 2-0'd both of them, and Pankratops was just so good in that matchup, and it gives you a big body on board that you can pop like there can be only one, or just not need your extra deck to just beat down your opponent. Like, it does so much, and it's really good. So if you're going second, I would actually main Pankratops, but if you're going first deck, I would definitely have it in your side deck. Artifact Lancia Lots of play in the side, 9 spots. Not too surprising because it shuts down like all the chaos plays for Dragon Link. It shuts down dinos completely. You know, invoke Dogmatica as soon as they link off like their Alistair into Almirage, you can Lancia, and then they're stuck with the invocation in hand, so they can't even I mean, I guess it don't necessarily matter at that point. You can chain it to the invocation even and get it in the graveyard. Since they won't be able to banish the Alistair out of graveyard, they'd have to have another copy in their hand to actually resolve it. So Lancia is actually good in that matchup too. Obviously Eldritch, you can stall them for a turn. If you know you're going against Guru, I've actually like decks that run a lot of, I guess not necessarily Guru, but like Gren Maju. I mean, they banish a lot anyway. But decks that run like Extravagance and other banishing like Desires, I've actually won games because I put Lancia in and just they go draw phase and then standby phase Lancia. Now they can't activate their Extravagance, they can't activate their Desires because they have to banish for cost, but they can't banish, so it is good in that regards. Lightning Storm also 9 spots, again back row removal sided, not too surprising. Cosmic saw 3, Twin Twister saw 2. After that, the next one, once again beating out Ash by 1 spot. Droll and Lockbird saw 6 decks side decking it with the 5 maining. That means 11 people were playing Droll and Lockbird, which is not too surprising at all. So 6 in the side, 5 in the main. Ash Blossom, 5 in the side, 4 in the main. So Ash is still Ash. It's generically good. It's just generically lackluster a lot of the time is what I found. So it's kind of up to you. If you want to play Ash, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The winning list played Ash and Imperm as his only Handtraps, and it's almost never going to be dead. Every deck you can Ash at some point unless they just open super awkward and don't give you that opportunity. 3 of the dinosaur lists played Rivalry of the Warlords. I really liked that call. I thought it was very good. We're not going to cover some of the side deck things like you saw if they were like super deck specific. Rivalry can get played in a handful of decks. That's why we're bringing up that 3 people did play it. But like Survival's End, that's straight up dino card. If you're not playing dinos, you're not going to play it, so we're not really going to talk about it here. Same with the other archetype specific cards. Dark Ruler No More only saw play from 2, so that brought its total to 3 out of the 16 played Dark Ruler No More. Not too surprised with the going second power cards, just not seeing a whole lot of play. Forbidden Droplet, only 2 in the side, none in the main. Who knows if the price will stay up there, even with talents. 3 sided it, 2 mained it, so only 5 out of the top 16, and Droplet only 2 out of the 16. They are super good cards though, and a slightly different format. They're going to be like staple main deck cards, so I don't know if the prices will come down, but in this tournament they definitely did not do a whole lot. Some other cards that we saw in the side decks, despite being at 1, Call by the Grave was side decked by 4 people actually. Sphere Mode was only played by 1. Gamma and Nibiru both had 3 people side decking it as well, which brought their grand total to 15 people played Gamma and Nibiru between the main and side deck. Obviously the majority was in the main deck, and 2 for Imperm, bringing its total up to 12, keeping it as the third most used hand trap in the top 16. So hopefully you guys kind of liked this video. Let us know down in the description below, what list was your favorite out of the top 16? You can use their name or just say the dino, one of the Dragon Links, whatever. There's a handful, like ranging from 40 card variants to 50 card, I believe, for a Dragon Link, so that was cool to see everyone with their own little twists on it. But yeah, let us know how you like this type of video and breaking down a tournament, because, well, we're kind of still stuck online, guys, so this is about as good as we get. But when you have this many high caliber players playing in a tournament, I do think that there's a lot of merit to it, despite the fact that it's online and everyone has access to every card. So there's no excuses like, oh, if I only had access to this card I would have did better. Well, now you do, so it's time to put up or shut up. You can play literally anything you want. You can build your deck absolutely however you want, so there are no excuses at this point. But yeah, take care, guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We have a lot more coming for you. Deck profiles from Invoke Dogmatica, Dinosaur, Dragon Link. Not quite sure, so I'm not going to mention a few that we may have co-hosts jumping on the channel and showing off deck lists for other stuff, because I'm not real fluent in them, such as Blackwings, Infernables, Guru Control, Brock with Trick Stars possibly, and some other things like that. Cyber Synchro will be up very shortly. Sorry for the miscommunication on the top 4 video. I included it in the title because it was a top 4 deck, and that video was to show you guys well, to tell you guys, inform you guys which decks made the top 4, and it did, but instead of showing a picture of it, we want to break it down and show you test hands and things like that really in depth. So enough rambling, you guys had enough. If you still stuck with and listened to all this, thank you. Let us know down below, again, what your favorite deck from the top 16 was. Take care, guys.